All right. Hello, everybody. This is PG from Footprint Analytics, and we're having a Technical Tuesday session today. Once again, it's a very best place and best time to ask any questions about our product, about our tool, about our API. Maybe you want to indicate the bugs, maybe you want to suggest some features that you're really anticipating to see within our tool. So be sure to unmute yourself or ask the questions in the chat. So apart from the possibility to ask questions, I'm going to be presenting a feature that we're having in Footprint. And it's actually a very, very powerful functionality. It's called SQL API. So, as you know or may not know, we store our data in the form of SQL, in the form of the relational tables. And that means that it is possible to query all the tables via a language, a query language called SQL. We got a quite sophisticated ETL of data starting from like row transactions to silver, when we bring some sanity constraints, and consequently moving to business aggregates like metrics that you can use straight away, who are stored in the goal tables. And what's important to understand is that fundamentally we got the relational table storing everything. But if it's now your first day in the blockchain analytics space, you've probably already used many times the flexible tools that require you to use SQL. And this is actually what you can do with our tool, but we're having an additional abstraction, which is giving you a possibility to do the same thing without writing a single line of SQL code. We have this visual drag and drop builder. And I'm going to be showing you how it works. So first of all, you have to proceed to our web application website, accessed by footprint.network. Once you're there, you're pressing a create button. And you're basically having two major options here. You can either press new chart or SQL query. SQL query button will redirect you to a view where you can paste your SQL code. You've probably been using different tools before, so you can simply migrate it from there. And the new chart is this zero code abstraction over SQL, which is significantly lowering the barrier of entry for analysis, and takes you literally seconds to get the data that you want. So once you press the new chart, on the left hand side you're going to be seeing a list of tables. So referencing the beautiful schema that I was showing before, there are 3 levels of data. It's bronze, silver, gold, and actually there's 4, but we don't consider it to be ETL. It's community tables, so it's like anything uploaded in the form of CSV to our tool. So once you got this view opened, you can select the table that may have the data that is required for your analysis. So by simply hovering over different tables, you're going to be receiving the description of each table. You're going to be seeing the time period, coverage, and etc. So in our particular case, we can use NFT transactions table. Once I'm pressing once you're selecting NFT transactions, the data is being previewed. So just some like random sample of rows being selected from NFT transactions data. So this table consists NFT transactions from different chains. And not only it's like BNB chain, EVM chains, but also non-EVM chains such as Solana, for instance. If we scroll down, I guess at some point we're going to be able to find them, but we're going to be building a beautiful chart that will calculate those transactions for us. So let's say we're trying to calculate the amount of transactions of NFT transactions done within last week. We want to count how many of them were, and we want to group them by day and by chain. To do it, you're pressing the advanced button. So I really encourage you to press the advanced button. It's having like a all-in-one constructor, and everything is like staying on the same page. So that's the best way to see the logic of this drag and drop query creation. So once you've opened this view, you're selecting the you're trying to filter the NFT transactions by which were executed within past 7 days. Then you're counting how many of the transactions were within those within the previous week, and then you're grouped by chain and by day. So that way you're counting how many transactions were within each chain and within each single day. Finally, let us sort the results by latest date to the earliest. Once I press the visualize button, you will have this beautiful chart generated. And it's not actually like that visually appealing, so let me select probably a more appropriate option in our case. Here we go. So bar chart. I love bar chart. So yeah, as you can see, within like a minute, we were able to make a cross-chain NFT analysis. Congrats, and have a beautiful visualization at the end. So as already mentioning before, everything is stored within a table view. So if we're pressing this button, we can see like the raw data that this beautiful chart consists of. And yeah, basically this is just a different visualization. Now, SQL API. So for instance, let's take a case that you are a dApp developer. For instance, you're trying to build a NFT gallery or something, and you really don't want to deal with like infrastructure project to like fetch this historical data. You simply want to like make a simple query, simple request, and get the data that you want. And actually you can do it with the footprint. So there is a way to take the chart that we've just built and fetch this data in the form of a raw data, so that you can like integrate your software with our tool, with our database. And that's actually a very quick and flexible way to develop your the app. And just by having this built within our web application, you can validate that you're getting exactly the data that you want. You're sure that it's correct, and you're ready to use it within your product's production environment, for instance. So you got the visual, beautiful form, and yeah, you can receive it in the form of a API request. How do you do it? That's a next step. So In order for you to read more about our API, you should proceed to our official documentation accessed by docs.footprint.network. There you'll be able to find the great explanation of different APIs and use cases that we're having at Footprint. And one of the options is SQL API. To use any API, you should get a API key. It's very simple to get an API key. So you should access the website, again, by footprint.network. You're pressing the, first of all, you'll have to register on our platform before trying to obtain an API key or build any chart or dashboard. Once you've done it, you've pressed the account settings button and you're selecting the developer tab. You will receive the API key. It will be automatically generated for you. So once you've got the key, you can, got something strange opened. You can get back to the documentation. And our documentation is not only static, we also got the dynamic components. Those are used for SQL, for instance. And by finding the SQL API category, selecting the query section, you'll have the sandbox for our API calls. And it's pretty like self-explanatory what you have to do here. So in order for you to make this SQL API call, you should provide the query itself that you want to use, and you have to provide the API key for authorization. So previously got the API key, you simply paste it. And to get the SQL code for the chart that we've built, and for any chart that is interesting for you to fetch from our API, you should go to the constructor of the query. So we've already been on this screen, so everything should be familiar about that. In the right hand side, there are 3 dots. By pressing them, you'll see the button View the SQL, and this is a SQL that is used to fetch the data from our database, and the result of the execution of this SQL will be a row table, a data that is consequently used by our web application to build the beautiful chart you can see in the background. So that's very important concept to understand. So there is a single database that is indexing the data from blockchain, applies the different ETL transformations, and consequently this same database is used by API. So again, I really encourage you to, if you're interested in software integration with this, really encourage you to build a chart in advance, apply the appropriate visualization option, validate the data, and once you're sure that you're getting a data in correct form, switch to API. So once you press this button, you have the SQL code. There is no good way yet to select everything by simply copy. By simply pressing a button, there is no way to copy all the text above, so I had to select it manually by myself. So once I've selected everything, I can come back to our API, simply paste it, and once I pasted it, I just press a try it button. We should wait for a couple of seconds. Seems like our servers are a little bit overloaded, but yeah, we got the data, and we got the same data that our web application previously showed us. So as you can see, it shows having three parameters: chain, block timestamp, and count. Same here: chain, block timestamp, and count. And that's it. That's the way to use our API, and it's a great and unique product, because it's giving the same flexibility as you're having it within our web application. So we're really trying to bring up the ecosystem approach when developing our tools. And as you can see, the integrations, if you've if you have a software development background, you probably have previously done some HTTP requests before using some popular programming languages. And Python, one of the most popular programming languages, and as you can see, it's like only 14 lines of code to make this request. You're seeing the SQL API just simply paste here, and that's about it. You're seeing this URL, you're providing the payload, you're including the headers for the authorization, our API key, and you're simply making a request. Then you get the result, you get the same thing. So that's what SQL API is. We also it's probably worth mentioning that SQL API is not the only option to do the software integration with us. There's a REST API. It's even simpler to use. It's very fast, but it's not my favorite because it's not that flexible as SQL API is. So REST is mostly built on top of the common scenarios, whereas with SQL API there is no limit of what you can query from us. So really encourage you to take a look at SQL API. If you guys have any questions about SQL API, about our product, about no code interface, about SQL interface, be sure to drop your questions to the chat. Thanks for your attention.